Hello, cupcakes. It is day 9 in the hashtag 78 days challenge, and today's card is Strength. And the card I am featuring, the deck I am featuring, is the Albano-Waite, whose coloring I adore. And this card, not this particular card, but the Strength card from the Albano-Waite is something that my husband has had in his possession, given to him. He doesn't even remember how. For like 40 years. So there's something really special and important about this particular card for me. Some of it is about the red and the white, and the way in which this card really clearly echoes the magician. You know, something's going on in Strength that is paralleling what happens to the magician. Not only because there's the lemniscate over her head, like his head, but and this is something that's hard to see if your version of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is like the original, the one that Rider and Company put out, I don't know, back in the late 90s, I think. It's been in print for a long time, but with the blue and white flowers on the background, the Tudor lilies. But this wreath wraps around the lion, and it too forms a figure 8. So whatever the kind of powers of the magician are, they're echoed or replayed or repeated in Strength. And in the Albano-Waite, we can track this red in all sorts of cards. You know, the red appears again and again, often in moments of distress, but sometimes in moments of triumph and union. And so I'm not sure what the red and white mean and what they end up meaning in this card. Often people talk about the white as purity and the red as experience, the red as passion, the red as the fire of will. But bottom line is red and white, these are colors that come together and have a kind of relationship to each other in Western iconography, you know, going back at least to the late Middle Ages. Anyway, red and white, it's cool. Gotta love it. Red and white, woohoo! So Strength. You know, yesterday we're talking about the balancing of forces that enables the stability of the emperor to move forward. And in the Dodal tarot, there didn't seem to be any wheels in the chariot, but in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, although the chariot still looks really stable and these sphinxes don't seem to be going anywhere, there are wheels. But the thing about these wheels in the chariot, like we see it again here, you know, this is lingam and yoni, right? I mean, this bolt through the whatever you call that, you know, the way the axis or the hub and the wheel works. I mean, the union that enables movement is always archetypally in the tarot tied to male and female, however we understand that. And I think the power of Strength for me is the ways in which, or fortitude, you know, or force, the ways in which it echoes a notion of will, but shows us how that doesn't have to be about movement. It doesn't have to be about triumph. It doesn't have to be about the driver of the chariot's relationship to a horse and to reining in that horse, putting the bit in the mouth of the horse, or in this case, the Sphinx. It can be the relationship that the lady has to the lion. So whether the lion is representing kind of our animal sides, or whether the lion is representing the kind of inner harumph, the what, you know, Sanskrit would call like virya, like this inner vigor or zeal, or whether it's representing lust and sexuality, or our bestial nature, however we understand the forcefulness of the lion, and however we might want to relate that to something negative, like the darkness of the bad horse or the black sphinx, or the unconscious, the kind of polarities between conscious and acceptable, and what goes underground and may not be as acceptable. However we want to understand what this red lion is, however we want to understand what the red is, counterposed to purity and good. Strength reminds us of a kind of binding that does not aim for mastery or control, but aims instead to weave together the good, the bad, to weave together all the polarities in our life. So in my spread of the year, strength was the card I had. I'm trying to remember what, was it in May? And it just was this card that reminded me that my strength lies not in the ways I overpower obstacles, but the ways in which I render myself vulnerable to those obstacles. So, everything relies on how we interpret, I think, with this card. Let's see if that comes into focus. The relationship between the lady's hands and the lion's mouth. What I love about the Rider-Waite imagery, what I love about what Pixie's doing, is it's just really hard to tell. Is she holding the mouth closed, or is she cradling the mouth that is opening? So are we trying to clamp down on the forces in our life that seem to us to be pulling us in the wrong direction? Or are we just holding them, embracing them, weaving them into our life's story, weaving them into our life's path, allowing this delicate garland of flowers to bring us into the closest of intimacy with forces we think are destructive? Strength, for me, is always going to be the forcefulness that I gain through my own vulnerability. Okay, this is a sleepy Lisa on a Wednesday morning, an insufficiently caffeinated Lisa, wishing you all well. Thank you for your practice.